I think I can just, yeah. Alright.
Let's have access to talk.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. Ooh, an SUV.
Alright. But yeah, so chat. It's like, I don't want you guys to be silent. I want you guys to be vocal, and especially if you have questions, I want you guys to ask. And I'll even like pause every now and again to let you guys ask questions, because there are some pretty complex subjects in this. And I want to like help you guys understand it as best as I can. And this is far from everything that's in competitive Pokemon. Like, there's so much more to it than what's in here, and this might seem like a lot. Like, it's a very, very long presentation. And there's a lot more to it than all of this. But this is a good beginner thing, I think. Alright. I'm actually gonna turn my music off for this chat. Alright. Okay. So yeah. So ask questions, chat. If you have any questions, shout them out. I'll pause every now and again for you guys to ask questions about anything. And I'll try to answer best as I can. So. Alright. This is all the stuff we're gonna be covering. We're gonna be covering the common VGC battle formats. All kinds of stuff about Pokemon, including types, stats, their natures and stat changes, priority moves, abilities, status conditions, EVs and IVs, and Dynamax. There's a lot to cover. Some of this stuff is complicated. Cough, cough, priority. It's one of the most complicated parts of competitive Pokemon. We got this, chat, though. We got this. Alright. So VGC battle formats, it's pretty easy to understand. This is super easy. VGC formats are always played in doubles. They never do singles in VGC. There is a big there is definitely arguably that singles are more common than doubles. There's a lot of people that play singles, and there's a huge singles meta. But in terms of actual VGC, they're always played in doubles, and the meta is completely different from singles and doubles. It's almost like a totally different game. The meta is not similar at all. So, when you're playing VGC, each player must have at least 4 Pokemon on their team at any time, and they can have a max of 6 Pokemon at any battle. And like you guys have seen me do this when I'm like playing in tournaments, we bring 6 Pokemon, and then we bring the 4 that we think will benefit us most per battle, because we get to see the other player's team before we actually fight. So we bring whichever Pokemon we think are going to benefit us the most, and you may only bring 4 Pokemon per battle. And when there's doubles, like you guys have seen, there's always 2 Pokemon on each side of the field, and then 2 in the back. And a player loses when all 4 of their Pokemon have fainted, or one of the players forfeit. Now, it gets a little more complicated if a match goes to time, which is kind of rare, but it can happen. When a match goes to time, the player with the most Pokemon remaining is the winner. If they have the same amount of remaining Pokemon, then the winner is the person who has the most total HP remaining on his or her Pokemon. And that means not health remaining on his or her Pokemon, it's the most total health of the remaining Pokemon. And I'll talk more about that later. And if they have the same amount of total health remaining, it's a tie. But that is like unbelievably rare. Like, the actual odds of that are crazy low. And then you can never have more than 2 of the same species of Pokemon on one team, which means you cannot like have 2 Garchomp on the same team. You must have 4 or I don't honestly know why you would ever bring 4 to an actual tournament if you're playing this competitively. Just bring 6. You can only bring 4 per battle, but bring a whole team of 6, because then you have choices. But you can never have more of 2 of the same species of Pokemon. You can only have 1 species per team. Alright, now on items. So each Pokemon can hold 1 item, and you may not have more than one of the same type of item on your team. So you can't have like 2 Pokemon holding a choice scarf. You can only have 1 per item on your team. Same thing with a species of Pokemon. In a PvP battle, Pokemon cannot use quote-unquote man-made items. That's what they're called in games. Like, for example, a man-made item is like a potion. If a Pokemon is holding a potion, it will not use it. And you can't use items from your bag either. But they will use, say, a berry because it's not man-made. What happens if you get DC'd? So, Eevee, it's kind of up to who's hosting the tournament. There's not like a set rule for that. For example, like in a big, like real, like full-on, like regionals tournament or something, they're playing it in a LAN setting, so being DC'd isn't an option. But like in an online tournament, it can, and it's just kind of up to whoever's hosting. Like that's why if you join a tournament, you read the fine print of the tournament, because that'll tell you what happens. Like, for example, in the tournaments we play in, if you get DC'd, it's a round loss. It's not a full match loss, but you lose that round if you get DC'd. Because, you know, obviously, like, let's say if you're like 1 turn to the battle and you get DC'd, then maybe you can play again. But if you're like 5 to 8 turns into the battle, that's really late into the battle. And like having to replay all that takes a lot of time. So it's just up to the tournament. You just got to read the rules of the tournament when you join.
Another thing about like getting DC'd and stuff, and like the potential of redoing rounds, it gets a lot less likely if you're like, let's say in your 3rd game, because you have so much information about your opponent and how they play. There was an actual issue with the tournament we were in where that happened, and
Yeah.
like
remember the time chat we were
a lot of problems.
Yeah, we were held up
so
for
much
like
I don't want to
I think a half hour to an hour later than we were supposed to.
About an hour.
Because that same thing happened. The person DC'd twice and was claiming it unfair that he was losing. But, you know. But again, it's up to the tournament. It's up to whoever's hosting it. You just read the rules when you join. They'll be more specific about it. Generally, getting DC'd is a round loss, though. Yeah. So, some popular items in competitive Pokemon include what we call the choice items. There's Choice Band, Choice Specs, and Choice Scarf. Choice Band increases physical attack by 50%. Specs increases special attack by 50%. And Scarf increases speed by 50%. But they're called choice items because they only allow you to use 1 move until you switch out and reset your choice. It's called being choice locked. So, for example, like a really common meta in the beginning was Choice Scarf Dracovish, which I actually ran for a while. Which means my Dracovish is 50% faster than normal, but whatever move I use, I'm locked into that move unless I switch out and reset it. So you can't like change your moves after. Another one is Life Orb. Gives a 50% boost in all damage that you're giving, but you take 1/8 HP recoil every time you use an attacking move. There are Pinch Berries, which give you or heal you for 33% of your total health when you're knocked below 25% health, unless your Pokemon has the ability Gluttony, which is a different can of worms. The item Assault Vest, which increases your Pokemon's special defense by 50%, but you're not allowed to use status moves. Focus Sash, which will keep your Pokemon alive at 1 health if it would have otherwise died, but only if the Pokemon is at full health. And that's why we typically run Sash on very frail Pokemon that would usually get one-shot very easily, because if it's not a frail Pokemon, then there's very little chance it'll get knocked from full health to death. So Focus Sash really wouldn't do anything. And then Leftovers, which just heals your Pokemon for 1/16 of its total health at the end of every turn. And then there's a lot of other ones. Really, it's just playing around with the items and looking at them and seeing what they do. There's a lot. Alright, types. This is it looks very wordy, but it's pretty self-explanatory. This isn't actually too complicated. So a Pokemon may have either 1 or 2 types. For example, Magikarp is has only the water type and is referred to as a pure water type. However, Zweilous has both dark and dragon typing and is referred to as a dual type, in this case a dual dark dragon type. If a Pokemon is a dual type, weaknesses and resistances, which we'll talk about in the next slide, are applied for both types. For example, Garchomp is a dual dragon ground type. Therefore, it is immune to electric type attacks because of its ground typing, but it's also 4 times weak to ice type attacks because both ground and dragon are weak to ice. So basically, if a Pokemon is dual typing, you apply. I have a weakness and resistance chart in the next slide, and you'll apply all of the weaknesses and resistances for both types to that Pokemon. And then a little side note here: Magikarp evolves into the Pokemon Gyarados, which is a dual water flying type, which means Gyarados would be 4 times weak to electric type attacks, while Magikarp is only 2 times weak to them because it's only water type. Keep tabs on a Pokemon's evolutionary chain because, like, to ensure that you're applying the correct weaknesses and resistances because their types can change as they evolve. So, again, here's the weaknesses and resistance chart. It's pretty big. It's really something you just get used to as you play. You just kind of get these going in your head. It's pretty easy, honestly. It looks complicated and it feels like it when you first start, but as you play more and more, you just kind of get used to it.
Hey Gabe, remember those people that when they were just starting off playing Pokemon when they were really young, they use moves because they like the move and not because like they're super effective or not effective at all?
Well, yeah, because back in the day, the games didn't tell you if a move was effective or not.
True.
You'd have to actually memorize it.
But even
Oh,
then, there's still
Warstar,
those
thank you for the
fears.
host, man. Yeah, no, I got you, Link. I will show. I'm gonna actually pause it right after this slide. Alright, so based on this chart, Magikarp, remember, is a pure water type, is resistant to steel, water, ice, and fire types, which means this Pokemon will only take 0.5 times the damage from these type of attacks. So yeah, half. However, it's also weak from it's also weak to grass and electric type attacks, which means that these types will deal twice as much damage. Now, if we look at Zweilous being a dark dragon type, we have to apply both of the weaknesses and resistance from each type. So if you look at here, like dark and dragon, if you just go down the list and see, like, for example, dragon takes half damage from steel type attacks, but it also takes twice as much from dragon types. Thought I had a total of 20 outcomes. Warstar, that means someone's sub ran out and they did not renew it. That's what that means, Warstar. So, if you looked at both, if you looked at the full type chart for Dark and Dragon, Zweilous would be resistant to Ghost, Dark, Fire, Water, and Grass and Electric type attacks, which is a lot of resistances. And then it would be weak to Ice, Dragon, Fairy, Fighting, and Bug type attacks. Mercy, don't worry about it. You're alright. I don't expect you to renew your sub. I'll just let you know. So, if you look closely here... If you look closely here... actually, look on this one right here. So, Dark and Dragon. Both of them are weak to Fairy. And when both types are either weak or resistant to the same type, the weaknesses and resistances stack. So Zweilous will be 4 times weak to Fairy and not 2 times weak. And the same thing applies to resistances. Again, just something you kind of get used to. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to pause right here real quick. Chat, does anyone have any questions? And I'll answer the best that I can. It's so wordy. I know. I'm bad with that. I'm bad with making things very, very wordy. And then I'll answer a question about any of this. Types, items, battle formats, anything like that we covered so far. We have to remember what types certain Pokemon are able to switch to ones to counter them. So, Eevee, yes. Memorizing your Pokemon's, like your team's,
strengths and weaknesses is
yeah,
essential, essentially.
like, because that's actually a really good question. Because knowing if you're, like, for example, let's say,
Hello.
my opponent has a Charizard on the other on his side, and I have an Excadrill on my side. Excadrill is steel, which means it's weak to fire, and I don't want Excadrill to take a fire type attack. So, for example, if I had, like on my team, I have a Rotom Wash in the back, and Rotom Wash is water type, which means he's resistant to fire. I could switch Rotom Wash in to take the fire type attack, because he would take it a lot better than Excadrill would, and that way I'm taking less damage. So that's actually a really good question. I would just say, when you build a team, try and just remember what your team's weak to, and like who you can switch into about. That's a really good question, Evie. Yeah, Warstar. I'm covering like everything, not just types and all that. I'm covering like everything beginner level for competitive Pokemon. Does anyone else have any questions, or am I good to move on? This is the easy stuff, chat. The rest of this, like, we get this. Some of this stuff is really complicated. Like, don't feel bad if you guys have a question. Like, there are no dumb questions. Especially when we start reaching topics like priority. It's so hard to get into in the beginning. Is there a good item for every Pokemon, like specifically? Depends on the Pokemon. Like, yes, some Pokemon work better with certain items than others. I'm trying, like, for example, Whimsicott works really good with a Focus Sash because Whimsicott's very frail. It dies super fast. So a Focus Sash is generally the most used item on a Whimsicott. Now, I'm not saying it's the only item you can use. Like, for example, I was running a Whimsicott with eject button, but commonly, like, yeah, when you see Whimsicott, the first thing that pops in your head is a Focus Sash. And then, like, another one, Duraludon, commonly runs a Life Orb because Duraludon's kind of bulky, so the health recoil doesn't actually hurt him that bad. And then the damage buff works really good for him. Same thing with Dragapult. So yeah, kind of the Pokemon. Like, there's a really good website called Pikalytics, which shows all of the usage for Pokemon, moves, abilities, and items and stuff. And you can look up any Pokemon, it'll tell you like what items they're most commonly running and what moves and all that. It's a really nice website. Around the competitive part of Pokemon, I'm pretty much the guy that farms legends and stocks them up. That's fine, Warstar. I never really cared about legendary farming or shiny farming. Like, that's never ever been something I really cared about. I've never shiny farmed in the game or really cared about the legendaries that much. Yeah, Cerebi is a really good website as well. Yeah, but competitive Pokemon I personally find a lot of fun. I like it a lot. I really enjoy it, and it's actually very little people actually know about the competitive scene of Pokemon. It's like Pokemon is such a widely known thing, but the competitive scene is actually very small. And personally, I want to see it grow. I like competitive Overwatch, competitive Pokemon a lot, and I think it has a lot of potential, and I want to see it get bigger. I mean, competitive Overwatch is pretty small too. You know, like, no one knows about competitive Overwatch. Let's be honest. But yeah, I want to see competitive Pokemon get bigger. All right. Any other questions, chat, or am I good to move on? And don't forget, we got items too. Yeah. Oh, where's he just asked a question about items though? And then battle formats as well. Alright, I'm gonna assume everyone's good. No questions, chat? I'm gonna move on. If you have any other questions, just put them in chat. I'll answer them as best as I can. Wait. But my seems to have been competitive. Sadly, missed out on a lot of event distributions. Yeah, I missed out on a lot of events too. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna move on, chat. If you have any questions, just post them. Alright, so stats. So when we talk about a Pokemon's stats or statistics, we mean the statistical numbers that make up its health, attack, defenses, and speed. Each Pokemon has 6 specific stats, which are also up here. There's health, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. Each stat is extremely important and has a very specific function, and we're going to cover each one independently because some of them, well, not really complicated, but like they're all important. Like, don't ever discount any of the stats. So health, or HP, refers to how long your Pokemon can battle until it faints and is no longer usable. Once a Pokemon's health drops to 0, it will faint and it can no longer be used until the battle is over. And this is just like the base health value of some random Pokemon. I don't actually remember which Pokemon this was. And I have one for all of them. So attack, or ATK, just means attack, refers to a Pokemon's physical attack stat. If a Pokemon uses a physical move, which we're going to cover later, then that move's damage will be calculated using this stat. And then defense is the same thing. It's a physical defense stat, and if it's hit by a physical move, the move's damage will be reduced based on this stat. And then special attack and special defense are the same as attack and defense, but for special moves. So if you use a special move, it'll use your special attack stat. And then same thing with special defense. If you get hit by a special move, it'll use your special defense stat to reduce the damage. So those are all pretty easy. Speed is the one of the most important ones. So speed refers to a Pokemon's speed stat. The turn order in Pokemon battles is determined by this stat. Whichever Pokemon has the highest speed stat, even if it is only by 1 point, will move first, and then the next highest will move, and so on and so forth until the turn is over. If 2 Pokemon happen to have the same speed stat, then they enter what is called a speed tie. In a speed tie, one of the Pokemon will be randomly chosen to move first. It's just a 50-50 split. Now, speed is different from priority, which we will discuss later. Speed's pretty easy. It's just whoever's faster moves first makes pretty self-explanatory. Priority is different. Priority can be a little bit complicated, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But in terms of just straight speed, whoever's fastest moves first, unless, now this is important, you're in the effects of Trick Room. Trick Room is a move that reverses this turn order for the turn, or for 5 turns. So instead of the fastest Pokemon going first, in Trick Room, the slowest Pokemon goes first. And that's really important because a lot of people will build Trick Room teams with slow Pokemon, so that way they can set Trick Room, and then their Pokemon will move first. So that's just a situational thing. In general, the fastest Pokemon go first. Now, evasion and accuracy are 2 more stats that can only be noticed in battle. They're not listed as values. They only take effect in battle. And they'll only be noticed if they're being changed, which we'll talk about after this. Evasion determines how likely a Pokemon is to avoid an attack, while accuracy determines how likely a Pokemon is to hit an attack. And they'll only have an effect in battle if they're changed. Normally, these are 1-to-1 and they'll never affect anything. And like, for example, if you look at a move like Flamethrower, it has 90 power, I believe, or 80 or 90 power, one of the two, and then 100 accuracy, which means it'll hit 100% of the time. Unless your accuracy is lowered or the defending Pokemon's evasion is boosted, then it'll be like a chance to hit. And then if you look at a move like Rock Slide, which has 95 accuracy, it means it has a 95% chance to hit. Which means there's a 5% chance that it will miss, even if their evasion or accuracy is not boosted. That's just how that works. Not really, Ninetales. in a competitive setting, it is very rare to see anyone actually use evasion or accuracy. It's not something you'll see that often. It's a very rare thing because they're not that important. They don't really change that much, even if they are used. I would say the only thing you're likely to see is check the accuracy of the moves that you are using, because some moves do not have 100% accuracy. But that's the only really likely scenario. In general, you will not ever care about these stats. Like, they're not that important. They don't really do that much. I just thought I'd mention them, but they're really unimportant. The accuracy of your moves matter way more than these two. If you do see it, someone's running a weird set. Like, that's all I can say. Like, you won't see these in battle.
Like, doesn't Muddy Water just lower accuracy? But,
Muddy Water can.
Still...
So yeah, so Muddy Water has a chance to lower your accuracy by one stage, which can be annoying, but it's an RNG thing. And I'll say it's not why they're using Muddy Water. They're using Muddy Water because Muddy Water is a good move.
So some moves can have additional effects like poison, burn, paralysis,
yeah,
or lowering accuracy, or
yeah. So it can, and like that's why I said like I wanted to mention it so you know, but it's not a very common thing. It's not something like, it's very rare for anyone to specifically run something accounting for this. You won't really see that often. It can happen, but it's rare. You probably won't see it. So yeah, so just be aware of it. Like, that's why I wanted to bring it up, but you probably won't see it that often. All right, before we go on to natures, does anyone have any other questions about stats? Like, don't be shy with your questions. Ask away. Like, if I was too fast on one of the stats, like, want a quick refresher on any of these? Anything?
Wait, Gabe.
Hmm.
Will or have you go over like the effects of some move status?
I will. I'm gonna go over that.
You will. That's okay. I wasn't sure if I'd missed it.
Okay. No, yeah, not yet. I'm gonna go over that. I think after natures or something like closer there. No other questions? What about the effects of burn? I have all that Warstar. That's stuff I will be going over a little bit later. All the like important effect stuff I've gone over. Like I've got all that in here, so don't worry about that. Everybody good? All right, I'm gonna move on. So now I go on to natures, and it's important that I put natures by stats because that's what this has to do with. So when a Pokemon spawns, it is assigned one of 25 possible natures, no matter how it was spawned, whether it was bred or caught in the wild. Yeah, good Shy. Yeah. So when it, like if you run into a Pokemon in tall grass, as soon as the Pokemon spawns, it will automatically already have a nature applied to it. And the only way to change nature is through a mint, which is actually new to this generation. Those were not a thing before. Before, a nature was a one-time thing and like you couldn't change it. So every nature, except for a couple, like name like a couple examples, but for the most part, every nature is tied to two different stats. One of those stats will receive a 1.1 times multiplier, while the other one will receive a 0.9 times reduction. So for example, the adamant nature multiplies attack by 1.1 times, and it reduces special attack by 0.9 times. So like, I'm trying to think of an example. So when you're breeding a Pokemon for competitive play, you always want to ensure that you have a good nature, so that way you're maximizing your stats as much as possible. So for example, for my Dragapult that I'm running, my special Dragapult, I have a nature called, not Jolly, timid, which lowers his physical attack and raises his speed. And that's important because since my Dragapult is a special attacker, I don't need physical attack. I'm not using that for anything, so I'm perfectly safe to lower that stat. And then by raising speed, it's ensuring that I'm faster than any other Dragapult that are not running timid. So I'm faster than any other Dragapult, unless they're running timid. And the good thing about lowering attack is I'm not lowering my special attack because that would lower my damage output. And I'm also not lowering either of my defenses because while it won't be that much, it means I would be taking more damage, which is not necessary. Like if I'm lowering my physical attack since I'm not using it for anything, then I'm just maximizing my damage output in my defense. Does that make sense? Okay. And then right here is just a quick natures chart. So this shows you every nature and what it lowers. Like for example, here's adamant. It gives an attack boost and a special attack lower. And then where's timid at? Right here. See, timid lowers physical attack, raises speed. Now the nature is bashful, docile, hardy, quirky, and serious. Actually don't do anything. They don't lower a stat, but they also do not raise a stat. It's very rare that you would use any of these. It's not impossible. It will happen. Like there are some times where you'd actually prefer to run one of these. It's a little rare, but it's not like it won't not happen. But it can. It just don't expect it. Generally, you want to be running one of these natures. Some pretty common ones you'll see are adamant. That's pretty common. Timid, jolly. Where is the modest? Modest is the opposite of adamant. Modest lowers physical attack but raises special attack. And then jolly is the opposite of timid, where jolly lowers special attack and raises speed. Those are probably the four most common ones you'll see. You'll see some of these other ones, but those are probably the four most common. Pretty easy. And then actually I didn't mention this in the presentation, but I should say this. In game, when you're actually in your physical Pokemon game, you can tell what your nature is doing because if you look at a Pokemon summary, if you're looking at its stats, one stat will be highlighted in red and another stat will be highlighted in blue. The red stat is the one being boosted, the blue stat is the one being lowered. If none of the stats are highlighted, that means it's one of these 5 natures that don't do anything. But that's an easy way to tell what natures you have. And then if you also, there's another tab on the summary. It's the same tab, I don't know what it's called, but it's the same tab that's talking about where you caught the Pokemon or where you found it. That stat will also tell you the actual name of the nature that you have. But it's a lot easier to just see what stats being raised and which one's being lowered. So that's pretty easy. Just when you're building a competitive Pokemon, you want to obviously be getting the most out of your nature as possible. Any questions on natures? Because like I talk very fast. I know this. It's a problem. So if anyone needs like help understanding this, let me know. Or if this makes sense to everybody, we're good. Chat, ask your questions real quick. I'm gonna turn my fan on because it's really hot. I apologize. It's been like in like the mid to high 80s and a little bit into the 90s this whole week, so I am like burning alive. I'm an Alaskan boy. I'm not meant for this. So, any questions on natures? Quick moment of silence. Everybody good? Alright, I'm gonna move on. I'm assuming everybody's good. Alright, so now we get on to stat changes. This is not complicated. I worded it stupid. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like this is one of the things that's kind of in a way hard to put into words, like all of it exactly without seeing it. It's once you like get a hold of it, it's stupid easy to understand. Just talking about it in words is kind of hard, but like if you're actually in game and looking at it, this is one of the most simple things to talk about. So, Pokemon can have their stats changed in battle by certain moves, items, and abilities that can activate. All of these things can activate or change stats. Each Pokemon can have 6 changes per stat active at once, whether they are being lowered or raised, which means you can have your attack either at +6 or -6. It could be either way. You cannot change it any more than 6 stages. It won't go any higher or lower than that. It'll only go to plus or -6. That's the highest. That's the maximum and minimum. So like for oh, and then another thing, like before I go into this part, each stat change is independent to that stat. So like if your attack is being raised, you can have your speed being lowered. It won't affect either of the other two. It's completely independent. So for example, a Pokemon can have its attack stat raised by 6 stages, while its defense stat can be raised by only 4 stages, and its speed stat can be reduced by 2 stages. Like, it's very wordy and like hard to get your mind around, but like basically each stat change is independent to that specific stat. Changing attack will not change defense or special attack or speed. None of that will affect that. It will only affect attack. So here's just a couple ways that you can change your stats. The move Dragon Dance gives the user +1 to both attack and speed, which means it raises the attack and speed stats by 1 stage. The ability Intimidate reduces all of the opposing Pokemon's attack by 1 stage. And then the item Lychee Berry will raise a Pokemon's attack by 1 stage if it is lowered to lower than 25% health. Those are just like, you know, a few of the very many ways that this can happen. Like Idaho actually brought up a good example when we were talking about accuracy. The move Muddy Water can lower the targeted Pokemon's accuracy by 1 stage. It's a chance, but it can happen. So yeah. And again, chat, if you guys have questions, do not be afraid to ask. I know this is kind of complicated. This is how stat changes are calculated. And I actually didn't know this until just very recently. So when you're in battle, when you're at what's called a neutral stage, when none of your stats are changed, you're at 2/2. You might think it's 1/1, but it's actually it's calculated at 2/2, which just translates to 1, which means it's neutral. It's not being multiplied or reduced. Now, when you get +1 to a stat, it adds +1 to the numerator. So now it goes from 2/2 to 3/2, which means that now you're at a 50% boost in that stat. Yes, that's right. And then a stat being lowered is the opposite, where instead of you get a -1 to the denominator, so it turns into 2/3. So you notice these two are not calculated the exact same, because while this you'd have a 50% boost, here you only have a 33% reduction. So you're reduced slower than you're raised, if that makes sense. So a stat can be raised or lowered by 6 stages each. So it can be a maximum of 8/2, and that would be 4 times. So that stat would be 4 times higher than normal. Or a minimum of 2/8, which would be 1/4. So it'd be 1/4 of what that stat would usually be. If a Pokemon has its attack lowered by 3 stage, and then it gets its attack raised by 1 stage, so it was at -3, and then it gets +1, it would cancel out one of the lowered stages, and then it'd be at -2. So you're at -3, you get +1, you just add the +1 to the -3, now you're at -2. Does that make sense? Please ask questions, chat. I know this can be complicated. I want to make this as clear as I possibly can. Mercy, makes sense to you? Okay. If anyone is confused even a little bit, ask questions. I want to make this clear for everybody. And this is another type of thing that gets a lot, like, makes a lot more sense when you're actually in the battle and seeing it. It makes a lot more sense. Trying to, like, word it out is a little difficult. It's just, competitive Pokemon is the type of thing where just, like, it's just everything else, really. The more you play, the easier it comes, and, like, the more you learn. And, like, the easier it'll come to you. Think you got it? And, like, it sounds complicated, but it's pretty easy. Once you get a hang of it, you got it. It comes pretty easy. Is everybody good? I'm assuming everybody's alright. I'm gonna move on. Now, here is probably the most complicated part of the presentation, and this is priority. So, just bear with me, chat. This will make sense. It's going to be a little overwhelming at first, but this will make sense. So, in a Pokemon battle, priority is different than speed. They are two very different things. Every Pokemon move in the game, this is not Pokemon, this is determined by your move, is assigned with a certain priority. Most moves in the game, almost all of them, have a priority of +0. Priority decides when Pokemon will be moving every turn. For example, a Pokemon using a move with a priority of +1 will always move before Pokemon with a priority of +0, regardless of speed. It does not matter what the speed stat is. If a Pokemon has a higher priority, it will always move first. Every single time. When two Pokemon are on the same priority example, or what the words, you know? When two Pokemon are on the same priority bracket, for example, if both have a priority of +0, then speed determines who will move first. So, if you're on the same priority bracket, that's when speed comes in. But if you're on a different priority bracket, priority will always determine before speed. Always. Priority is higher than speed. This is the full priority bracket. So like I said, most moves are at +0. This is like the neutral stage of priority, is +0. Priority can go as high as +5. There's actually only one move at +5 priority. +4, +3, +2, +1. And then low as -7. And there's also only one move that has a priority of -7. So the move Helping Hand is the only move of priority of +5, which means it will always go first. Helping Hand will always be the first move ever used in a battle. If it's used, Helping Hand will always go first. There is nothing that will ever stop Helping Hand from moving first. Trick Room is the opposite, where it's the only move with a priority of -7, meaning it will always go last. Trick Room will always be the last move being used. That's actually not true. I just found this out recently, which I did not know. If you use the move Quash, the targeted Pokemon will actually always move last in the turn regardless of priority. Which I'm not even going to get into right now because that's so unbelievably complicated, and this is already complicated. Just assume under any normal circumstances, Trick Room will always be moving last. Now, some things have the ability to change priority. For example, the ability Prankster, which is a super important competitive ability, gives all status moves, which we'll cover later, a priority of +1. This means that a Pokemon with Prankster will almost always be moving first if it is using a status move. Another example is the item Lagging Tail. This item gives all moves a priority of -1, so the Pokemon will almost always move last. I don't think the next... Okay, yeah. Does anyone have any questions on priority? Ask away. I know priority can be a little overwhelming at first. It's pretty easy. Like once you wrap your head around it. I have none. All right. Anyone else have any questions on priority? No questions. We're all good. I'm assuming everyone's got this down. All right, chat. You guys are way smarter than me. It took me it took me a while to wrap my head around priority. All right, so now we're going on to moves. So all moves in Pokemon, no matter what it is, all moves fall under 3 specific categories: physical, special, and status. You did, but you forgot. Oh, Ninetales, I'm sorry. If you remember it, Ninetales, just put it in chat. Doesn't matter where we're at. If you remember it, just put it in chat. I'll answer. So as I stated in the stat portion, both the physical and special categories determine a move's type of damage, while a status move is a move that does not do direct damage but causes a special effect in battle. So if a move is physical, it will almost always use the user's physical attack stat and the target's physical defense stat. And then same thing with the special attack. It will almost always use your physical or your special attack stat, and almost always use their special defense stat. There are actually, I think there's only 2 exceptions, and they do the same thing. The two moves, Size Shock and Size Strike, are special moves, but they actually calculate damage with the target's physical defense stat. So they're your special attack stat, their physical defense stat. It just switches. Memory of a rat. Am I posting this to YouTube? Yes, Evie, I will be. But other than that, those are the only 2 exceptions. Everything else will always be the same. Physical means physical, special means special. Pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, exactly right here. Physical will be calculated with the user's attack stat, so on and so forth. Now, a status move will cause a special effect to happen in battle and will always change depending on the move. Some status moves can cause status conditions, some cause stat changes, some cause changes to the turn order, etc. So, like some good status moves, for example, the move Tailwind will double your side of the field's speed for 3 turns. So while you're under Tailwind, your speed stat for both Pokemon will be doubled for 3 turns. The move Sunny Day will apply Harsh Sunlight for 5 turns. The weather's a whole other can of beans. Then there's other status moves like Dragon Dance, which we talked about earlier, which increases your attack and speed stats by 1 stage. There's so many status moves. Just like that's a quick opener. That's what they do. Yeah, not much to go over here. And then right here I just put a little spot. This is how you can tell what type of a move it is. Physical move has this little like explodey symbol. A special move has this symbol, which I've always thought looks like a drop of water hitting a flat lake. And then special looks like yin and yang, or status looks like a yin and yang symbol. So those 3 symbols will tell you what type of the move is. And we're gonna go here. Abilities. This is another one where it's like it's super easy to understand, but my brain made it wordy and it looks complicated, but it's not. This is super easy. So every species of Pokemon has access to 1 to 3 abilities, all of which have special effects in battle, and some actually have effects outside of battle too. Pokemon can have either 1 or 2 normal abilities. Wait, talk about renewing the status moves, especially Tailwind. God, there's only certain ones you can reset. So yes, Eevee. So, some status moves like Tailwind and Sunny Day run out after X amount of turns. For example, Tailwind lasts for 3 turns and Sunny Day lasts for 5 turns. So sometimes, yes, I will like switch out my Whimsicott to preserve it so I can reset my Tailwind later. because having my team's speed doubled is perfect in almost every circumstance. You almost always want your speed faster because you want to be moving faster. So yeah, like preserving your Tailwind setter, in this case mine was a Whimsicott, is really important because that ensures that you're being that your Pokemon will be moving first. And then if we take a look at Idaho's team, which he was just using when we were battling earlier, his Whimsicott has Tailwind, but it also has Sunny Day, and he uses Sunny Day to ensure that his Charizard is doing more damage with its fire type attacks. So sometimes he'll switch out his Whimsicott and try and reset Sun, so that way his Charizard will be doing the max amount of damage as possible. So yes. It's always good.
And then yeah, Whimsicott
Go
is
ahead.
also running Prankster as its ability.
Yeah.
And so as a stat, it's a supportive Pokemon, and certain
Yeah.
Pokemon are built better for support. And it's not necessarily dependent on any particular stat. You might think like a bulkier Pokemon will be better supportive because they'll survive longer, and yes, that's true. But Whimsicott is very frail, but it's still a really good supportive because of the moves it can get. That's more important than what this overall Pokemon stats are. And that's something to remember as well.
And another thing is that actually very few Pokemon have access to Tailwind, and most of the ones that do are typically frail Pokemon. And Whimsicott's one of the only Tailwind setters that has access to Prankster, which makes it a very ideal Tailwind setter, because with Prankster, like I was saying earlier, all status moves get a priority of +1, which means Tailwind will almost always be moving first. And that's also really important because I just realized something I forgot to mention in this is something that's completely new to this generation is speed is changed dynamically in battle. What that means is when speed is changed, that speed change will apply that turn, whereas in previous generations, for example, if you set Tailwind on one turn, the Tailwind wouldn't actually apply until the next turn, which means like, let's say, yeah, that's actually new to this generation. So let's look at Idaho's team. So let's say I lead with Dragapult, and then he leads with Whimsicott and Charizard. Normally, Dragapult moves before Charizard because Dragapult is faster than Charizard. But under Tailwind, Charizard is actually faster because of the speed double. Now the importance of dynamic speed change is that normally Idaho would have to protect Charizard turn 1 and then Tailwind, because if he did not do that, Dragapult would still be faster because Tailwind wouldn't apply until the next turn. Now, because speed changes dynamically, Tailwind applies immediately. So that same turn, as soon as he applies Tailwind, Charizard is automatically faster. And that's something to be aware of that was not in previous generations. That's completely new. And that doesn't apply with just Tailwind, that's anything. Like, let's say you use Max Airstream, which gives your side of the field +1 to speed. That +1 would apply to your partner Pokemon immediately. So if it wouldn't be faster than one Pokemon normally, but +1 makes it faster, then it will move faster that turn because speed changes dynamically. And that's something to be really aware of. In EVS, so Prankster I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but Prankster increases priority by +1 for any stat moves, or status moves. Prankster will always get +1 to any status moves. Does anyone have any other questions about priority or moves? Yeah. No, we're good? Alright, I'm assuming we're good. Okay, so back to abilities. So, yeah, so Pokemon can have either 1 or 2 normal abilities, and then some Pokemon have access to a special type of ability called a hidden ability or an HA. So when we, for example, when we refer to an HA Pokemon, we're talking about a Pokemon with its hidden ability. When a Pokemon is spawned, it can have 2 normal abilities. One of the abilities is randomly chosen. So, like, for example, Whimsicott, here's a good example. he has 2 normal abilities. He can either have Prankster or Infiltrator. So when a Whimsicott spawns, there is a 50-50 chance that it'll be Infiltrator or Prankster. Now, a Pokemon can only spawn with an HA in special circumstances which change per game. So you will never, like, if you're just running through the tall grass, you'll never find a Pokemon with its HA. It'll never happen. It can't happen. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, HA Pokemon can only be found in max dens. So you can only get HA Pokemon max dens. Unless, now this is important, you transfer them from an old generation. As long as they have access, as long as they have their hidden ability in a previous generation, you can transfer it to this gen, and it'll have its HA still. But normally in Sword and Shield, you can only get HA Pokemon through max dens. They'll never spawn while outside of these dens, and you can, and this is important, you cannot breed a non-HA Pokemon to get its HA. So like if you breed Prankster Whimsicott with Ditto, you'll never get Whimsicott's HA, which I actually cannot remember what it is right now, but you'll never get it. You have to have a Pokemon with its HA to breed for another Pokemon with its HA. And then here's also, this is also important, if you breed a Pokemon that does have its hidden ability with a Ditto, or the same species of Pokemon that also has its hidden ability, the egg will almost always have its HA. That's not a 100% chance. Sometimes it'll spawn with a normal ability, but almost always it'll spawn with its HA. Yeah. So the effects of abilities range greatly. Like there are so many different abilities with so many different effects. Most abilities in Pokemon only have effects in battle, but some have outside effects. For example, here's an important one for breeding. If you have a Pokemon with the ability Flame Body in the first slot in your party, any eggs you have in your party will hatch twice as fast, and that's really important for breeding. Now, abilities can have huge effects in battle, from boosting yourself with the ability Huge Power, which doubles your Pokemon's attack stat, or hindering your Pokemon with abilities like Intimidate, which lowers the opposing Pokemon's attack by 1 stage. That's like, for example, Intimidate is what makes Incineroar so strong, because it can have the ability Intimidate, and it lowers the opponent's damage output if they're using physical attackers. So that's something to be aware of. Checking which abilities your Pokemon can have access to, along with which would best fit your team, is very important in Pokemon battles. Now, I will say generally, Pokemon are almost always run with one ability. Like, there's just generally one ability that will shine brighter than any of the other ones. For example, Tyranitar will almost always use Sandstream as its ability, which summons Sandstorm for 5 turns. It's very rare that you run something else. I honestly don't know why you would. It just makes it way better. Now, there are some Pokemon that are exceptions to that. Like, for example, the Pokemon Excadrill. You could run him with his hidden ability, which is Mold Breaker, which makes it so it ignores the effects of other Pokemon's abilities, which can be really important. Or it's
really evident in Mimikyu.
Yeah.
This is really evident in Mimikyu, whose ability is Disguise, which means the first physical special attack will not take any direct damage to Mimikyu, but the Disguise will be busted. This is just changed in Sword and Shield to where he takes, what is it, like
1/8.
I don't know what the percentage is for
1/8.
1/8?
Yeah,
is
1/8. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when the Disguise is busted, now he takes 1/8 of his health, but that does protect him from, let's say, getting one hit by a Max Ghost or whatever from, let's say, a Dragapult.
But the
so
importance
really
here
good,
is,
Mold Breaker on Excadrill, you will hit through it, and he
because
will take full damage based on
since it ignores the effects of the ability, it won't activate the Disguise, and it'll hit through the Disguise, and it'll hit it like normal. And then there's other circumstances too, like for example, the ability Levitate makes Pokemon immune to ground type attacks, but an Excadrill with Mold Breaker will ignore Levitate and hit it with a ground type attack anyway, which can be really important, especially to Pokemon like Rotom, who are weak to ground type attacks. But then Excadrill also gets an ability called Sand Rush, which doubles its speed stat if it's in sand, if it's in the sandstorm. So, actually a really popular combo is running Tyranitar with Sandstream and then Sandrush Excadrill, because that means Excadrill will be outspeeding almost everything in the game, including Dragapult. So that's a really common combo. It's not as common now. It kind of died out a little bit, but it's still around. Now some Pokemon have even more special abilities, which are called signature abilities, which only that species of Pokemon can gain access to. No, like only that evolutionary chain can get access to that ability. No other Pokemon can. A good example is the Pokemon Aegislash, which only has access to one ability called Stance Change. This changes the Pokemon's form and stats depending on the move used, and Aegislash currently is the only Pokemon with the ability Stance Change. That could change. They could give it to another Pokemon. I doubt it, but it could happen. So that's pretty much abilities. They vary a lot. There's like really just reading and doing research. Go ahead.
Isn't stat change for Aegislash dependent on the move King Shield?
Yes.
Because Aegislash as a Steel Ghost dual type gets a unique
Take your time,
protective ability called King's Shield. It does the same as Protect, but if I'm right, it Stance Change doesn't proc under just Protect.
Yeah, you're right.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. You're right. So Stance Change will only activate if Aegislash uses the move King Shield. No other move will activate Stance Change. And Stance Change is like, I'm not gonna go into it. It's really something you just like read about. It's a really good ability. Like don't discount Aegislash. He's a really good Pokemon. Not the best. Like he's not perfect, but he's really good. I would say in the current meta, he's kind of weak because of the presence of Dragapult, who's hitting him for super effective with ghost type attacks. And since Dragapult can just hit so strong, like he's not super viable right now. But I actually was just looking, and someone won a regionals with a Focus Sash Aegislash, so it's possible. It can happen. It's just not super common.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing I like about competitive Pokemon. I just want to talk about this real quick. It is very rare for, like, Pokemon is actually generally very balanced. And this might seem crazy coming from me, the guy who rants about Gmax Suppress constantly, but it actually, for the most part, is actually very balanced. Like, there obviously is a meta, and there are obviously Pokemon that are better than others, but you can run almost anything and make it work. Like, just recently, like, for example, Wolfey Glick, who is my favorite Pokemon competitive player and very cool guy. You know what? I'll go as far as plugging him on Twitch. Go check out Wolfey Glick. His name on Twitch is Wolfey VGC. He's got a YouTube channel. He's a pretty cool dude. Does a lot of silly Pokemon stuff. He's super fun. Go check him out. He's actually really cool.
But he also does give a lot of good tips. And even just watching how he plays and like his thought process as he goes through it can be really
He's a really good player
to get better.
But like recently, like he's gotten #1 in the world on ranked, and now this is on ranked online in Sword and Shield. This isn't like World Championships or anything, but he's gotten #1 on ranked with Leafeon, Glaceon, and Morpeko, which all three are very underused Pokemon. Like they're not very common at all. And he's got #1 ranked in the world with all three of them. So like, as long as you play right, any Pokemon can really work. And like, you know, I'm running a Toxtricity on my main team, and I've been making it work. Toxtricity is actually quite threatening if you play them right. And that's the thing I like about Pokemon. It's very rare for any Pokemon to be seen as the king. Now, you guys are lucky we're not around for VGC 19, because there was a very rare scenario in which the Pokemon Incineroar was unbelievably overused. He was so strong in VGC 19 to the point that he had the highest usage rating of any Pokemon of any time ever. Which at one point I believe it peaked at like over 75% usage, which meant that over 3/4 of every Pokemon team was using Incineroar. It was insane. He was stupid broken in that game. He's still good now. He's not as strong, but he's still pretty good. I personally use him now.
Which is weird because they gave him another really good move.
They did. They actually buffed him in
Parting
this
shot.
game, but this meta is just not super
Yeah,
great for him.
he's used less. Which is amazing. The only reason he's not again top of the line is because he's not good for the. He's not as good for the meta anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a godsend. Because, dude, Incineroar does not need to be top of that list again.
Yeah, no. I would be perfectly happy with not playing with Incineroar again. And don't, for the love of God, even though Incineroar was overused, still, I would rather play in an Incineroar meta than, for the love of God, another Xerneas meta. I'm not even going to get into a chat.
Oh, me
Just,
too.
ugh.
I don't. Yeah, no. It's
Xerneas, in my opinion, is by
was the
far the
exact
most
same thing.
broken Pokemon of all time. And actually, Wolfey Glick agrees. He actually also agrees that Xerneas is the most broken Pokemon that they've ever had. Stupid broken Pokemon. But we're gonna stop ranting about that now and get back to the thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
yeah.
So now we're going on to status conditions. Now these are volatile status conditions. There's two types: there's volatile and non-volatile. Good Lord, I know mercy. Volatile conditions you will not see as often. So, status condition is called volatile when it wears off if a Pokemon is switched out. So there are a couple more than this, but for like these are the four main ones. There's Bound, Can't Escape, Confusion, and Curse. These are like the four main volatile status conditions. So, Bound is a condition that happens if a Pokemon is hit by a binding move like Sandtome, and it will deal 1/8 of the targeted Pokemon's health at the end of every turn for 2 to 5 turns. And also, the Pokemon cannot escape if it's bound. Can't Escape is similar to Bound, except it doesn't do any damage, and it's more common. It's a condition that happens if a Pokemon is hit by a move like Mean Look and makes the targeted Pokemon unable to switch out or flee. Another good example is the ability Shadow Tag, which in the current meta, Gothitelle is a big user of. If a Pokemon has the ability Shadow Tag, the opposing Pokemon will not be able to switch out. So that's important to be aware of. Confusion is, for the love of Jesus, the second most annoying status condition in Pokemon. Confusion is a status condition that happens if a Pokemon is hit by a move like Confuse Ray. When a Pokemon is confused, it has a 1/3 chance to hit itself instead of using a move, and Confusion wears off after 1 to 4 turns. Confusion is super annoying. Don't even get me started. It's just annoying. Curse is really rare. Curse and Bound are really rare. Can't Escape is pretty rare, and Confuse. All of these you won't really see that often. Curse is definitely the rarest of them though. If a Ghost type Pokemon uses the move Curse on another Pokemon, then the targeted Pokemon will start taking 1/4 of its total HP at the end of every turn. Now I forgot to mention that when you use Curse, it actually casts half of the user's health immediately for the extra damage. And while that seems like a lot of damage, when you consider that you can get rid of it by switching out, it's really not good. That's why you'll never see it. It's just not good a move. If combined with Can't Escape, maybe, but I don't know why you would do that instead of just Perish Song. It's faster. But yeah, so those are the volatile ones. These are mostly rare, you probably won't see them very often. These are the main ones. So these are non-volatile. And Warstar, if you're still here, this is what you were waiting for. So, non-volatile status conditions are, for the most part, more intricate than volatile, and they will remain on your Pokemon even after switching out, or if the battle ends, except for PvP, because the battle doesn't, if the battle ends in PvP, it resets everything. So, Burn.
That's why one hit or one use items you don't lose them
Yeah,
in an online battle.
because
which would be really
everything
inconvenient
resets.
If you lost one time you died.
So burn will deal 1/8 of your
Imagine
Pokemon's
if a
max
weakness
HP.
policy was reset.
That'd be terrible. Or like Focus Sash, that'd be awful, dude. So burn will deal 1/8 of your Pokemon's max HP at the end of every turn, but more importantly, it halves your Pokemon's attack stat. Now note, it does not do anything to special attackers, it's only physical, but it halves your attack stat, which is huge. That's a very big, that's very big. Paralysis, gotta hate it. When a Pokemon is paralyzed, there is a 25% chance that the Pokemon will be unable to move due to a full paralysis, which is super annoying. The inflicted Pokemon will also have its speed halved. So burn is for a physical attack, paralysis is for speed. That's also why Thunder Wave Grimmsnarl is super annoying. Alright, so sleep is a little more complicated. When a Pokemon is put to sleep, it will always stay asleep for the first turn it moves after it was afflicted. So this is important. It will stay asleep for the first turn it moves after it was afflicted. After that, it has a 1/3 chance of waking up every turn for up to 4 turns, in which it will always wake at the 4th turn. Take your time, Shy. Basically, a Pokemon will always be asleep for 1 turn, and it has a 1/3 chance of waking on the 2nd turn, 3rd turn, or the 4th turn it was put to sleep. So it'll roll the die, and your Pokemon will either be asleep for 2 turns, 3 turns, or 4 turns. Your best case scenario would be a 1-turn sleep, which means you sleep on the 1st turn, then wake up on the 2nd turn. But RNG is not like that. When a Pokemon is poisoned, it will deal 1/8 of its max HP at the end of every turn. So poison's not that bad, but then there's badly poisoned.
You mean toxic?
Well, it's called badly poisoned, yeah. Welcome back, Ninetales. So badly poisoned is a much bigger version of poison that can only be afflicted with the move Toxic or the item Toxic Orb. When a Pokemon is badly poisoned, it will lose 1/16 of its max HP at the end of every turn, and the damage will increase by 1/16 every turn. So the first turn it'll take 1/16. On the 2nd turn, it'll take 2/16 of health, and then 3/16, and then 4/16, and so on and so forth. So the damage doubles every turn. Or not doubles, but it gets increased by 50% every turn. Now, I didn't mention this here, but badly poisoned, the turn counter will reset if a Pokemon is switched out. It will not lose the badly poisoned status, but it'll go back to 1/16. So that's a way to negate the damage a little bit. And then freeze, by far the most annoying status condition in all of Pokemon. If a Pokemon is frozen, it will be unable to move until it thaws. Before a Pokemon moves, it has a 20% chance of thawing, even on the same turn it was frozen on. So like, if a Pokemon moves before you and freezes you, you can unfreeze on the exact same turn, but it's a 20% chance. And then I also forgot to mention, there are some moves that actually will unfreeze you. Like the move Flame Wheel. If you use the move Flame Wheel, it will unfreeze you automatically. But generally Flame Wheel is a bad move and you wouldn't run it. I don't know why you would.
Are there any? I thought Scald did the same thing.
It might. I can't remember all of them. There are a couple that will do it. But freeze, super annoying, because unlike sleep, you will not unthaw at a set amount of turns. It's just a 20% chance every turn. So theoretically, you could literally be put to like frozen forever. You could just never wake up.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost done, chat. Yeah, freeze is terrible. It needs to be nerfed or taken out of the game. Terrible. All right, chat, real fast. I'm gonna run and get a drink because my throat is starting to hurt. If anyone has any questions about status conditions or want to go back to abilities or anything, ask them while I'm back, or while I'm gone. I'll be right back, chat. I'll go fast for you. So yeah, ask your questions. Sorry about the long wait, chat. I'm back. Refresh my voice a little bit. Alright. So I'm going to assume since no one asked any questions, everyone's good on status conditions, we're ready to move on. So I'm going to move on. Alright. So, now we're going on to effort values, or EVs. Now, EVs and the next slide for IVs, very complicated. And not something that I can really get all the way into right now. But I'll talk more about it later. But, okay, so EVs, or effort values, are a hidden stat in Pokemon that contribute to a Pokemon's stat value. EVs are gained from battling wild Pokemon and can increase a Pokemon's total stat value. Each Pokemon can gain a maximum of 252 EVs in a singular stat, or they can have a maximum of 510 EVs across all 6 stats. EVs give stat bonuses on a 1-to-4 ratio. In other words, 4 EVs equate to 1 stat point. So if you were to max out a stat or put all 252 EVs into a single stat, then that stat would increase by 63 points, because you would do 252 divided by 4. Now, what I mean by this sentence right here, so a Pokemon may have at max 510 EVs. It cannot have any more than 510 EVs. However, a Pokemon can have a maximum of 252 EVs in one stat. So it can't have any more than words. Oh, I'm thinking here. Actually, this is also a wrong number, by the way. I don't know where I got this. It's actually 255. It doesn't change anything. That's not enough for another stat. It's still, the max is 63 points. But this number is actually 255. But yeah, so, like, for example, you can only put 252 EVs into attack, and then you'll have 250 something. Well, you know, math doesn't work, to give to the rest of your stats. So EVs are really important and competitive. So if you look at this, a Garchomp at level 100 with no attack investment, which means it has no attack EVs, has an attack stat, a total attack stat of 296. Now, when you max out a stat or put all 252 EVs into attack, its attack stat is now 359. And you can see that's a pretty big difference, which means he's going to be doing a lot more damage than he would without the investment. And that's really important to note. So that's just something to really be aware of. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so, and then this is the other thing. EVs allow you to build your Pokemon however you want. This is where building comes in really clutch. Because you can either do, a really common thing is you put full investment into 2 stats. So you do 252 EVs into 2 stats, and then you'll have 4 EVs left over, which are just enough to give 1 point to any other stat. So for example, for my special Dragapult, what I did is I put 252, I maxed out his special attack and his speed. So my Dragapult is super fast. It's as fast as it possibly can be, and it's as strong, especially as it possibly be. And then for the 4 extra ones, I put it into special defense. So that way he has 1 extra point in special defense and is just taking special attacks a little bit better. Not that much. It's not that bad, but it's more than it would be without the investment. So it's important to use all of your EVs. And then there's other builds you can do where you spread out your EVs a lot more. Really, that just comes with practice and team building to learn like how to build Pokemon. I'm not going to get into the whole thing now, but EVs are important. Just know EVs are really important. And then we come to IVs. IVs are also really important. So IVs are another hidden stat, much like EVs, but instead of acquiring them through battling, EVs are set upon a Pokemon spawning, whether it was found wild or bred. There is only one way to change a Pokemon's IVs, which we will discuss in a second. Chad, I cannot talk today. A Pokemon can have anywhere between 0 and 31 IVs in any given stat, and there is no cap on how many IVs it can have. So Pokemon can have 0 IVs in every single stat, or 31 IVs in every stat. So basically, a Pokemon can have max IVs in every stat. There's no, like with EVs, how you can only have 510 total. There's no cap like that with IVs. So you can have all max IVs. So when we refer to a Pokemon being an X IV Pokemon, we are referring to how many maxed out IVs it has. So for example, a 4 IV Pokemon would have 4 maxed IVs. The goal is almost, notably almost, always to have 6 IV Pokemon, because this ensures that it has the best battle potential for each stat. Now, the reason I say almost here is because there are some key cases where actually not having full IVs is ideal. Now, this is generally not something you would worry about unless you're going to like a really big tournament. If you're going to a really big tournament, you want to make sure your Pokemon are as perfect as they can possibly be, because that could change the tide of battle. Now, one example I can actually tell you right now is when I built my Dragapult, my special Dragapult, I purposely made sure that its attack IV was very low. Now, the reason I did this is because there is a move called Foul Play, which it's a dark type move. So first off, dark is super effective against Ghost, so it's super effective against Dragapult. And what Foul Play does is it uses the target's attack stat to calculate the damage instead of the user's. So for example, Sableye is pretty common with Foul Play because its attack stat is very low, but with a Foul Play, it's using the target's attack stat, so it'll be doing a lot more damage. And since my Dragapult is special, I don't need the physical attack investment, and by making sure that my physical IVs are 0, I'm making sure I have as little physical attack as possible, so on the off chance I run into a Pokemon running Foul Play, it'll do just that much less damage to me. And that's why I said that's also, like, generally, for, like, smaller tournaments, you wouldn't worry about that. But the big tournaments are where it matters, because that's where it's, like, everyone is ensuring that their Pokemon are built perfectly exactly how they want them to be. And, like, that's something like way off. Like, I'm not even thinking about that yet. But it is something to be aware of. For the most part, though, you'll always want 6 IVs because you'll just be ensuring that your Pokemon are doing the best potential they can. That's a rare case. So yeah, by far the easiest method to get maxed IVs is through breeding. So when we are breeding Pokemon, it is almost always to get as close to perfect as IVs as we can. Once a Pokemon is spawned, its IVs are set, and there is only one way to change them, which was actually added new in Sun and Moon, which is the previous generation. This is through a method called Hyper Training, which uses items called bottle caps or gold bottle caps to automatically maximize a Pokemon's IV stat of the player's choice. However, the Pokemon must be level 100 in order to do this. Now, bottle caps are really nice. Hyper Training is such a good option because you can max out IVs. However, I would not recommend doing this unless it is a Pokemon that is not breedable. There are some Pokemon that are referred to as genderless, which means they don't have a gender, and if they're genderless, they cannot breed. For the most part, really legendaries and mythicals are the only genderless. There are some exceptions. For example, Rotom and Heatran are actually both not mythicals and not legendaries, and they're both genderless, so they cannot breed. And like farming in the grass or farming through max dens, you have a very, very low chance of getting good IV Pokemon. So those are the kind of Pokemon I would recommend using IVs for, or bottle caps for. But if it's a breedable Pokemon, it's tedious. Trust me, I know I've done it. But I would recommend breeding for good IVs, because that way you're not wasting your bottle caps, because bottle caps are very rare. They're very hard to come across. And your Pokemon has to be level 100 to do this, and that's just a lot of XP farming. So I would recommend breeding for IVs, but you can do this if you want to. I've done it before. I've taken the easy route. But yeah. So, like I was saying, IVs and EVs are pretty complicated, and there's a lot more to them. I covered most of it, but there is more. So if you guys wanted me to do a full IVs and EVs guide, let me know. I'd be happy to do that for you guys. It'll probably be mostly like the best. Whoops. It'll probably be less of like talking about what they are, because I pretty much covered that in these. But this will probably be more about how to farm for the best IVs and EVs, and how to EV train and IV train. That's probably what that'll be mostly of. So if you guys wanted to see that, just let me know. Alright. Dynamax. So Dynamax is a feature that was just added in Gen 8, or Pokemon Sword and Shield, that acts somewhat like Mega Evolution from the previous generations, but it's a little bit different. When a Pokemon is Dynamaxed, their size is increased greatly, and their stats are increased for 3 turns. Their moves are all turned into max moves that have a second effect that changes based upon the type of the move that was used. For example, Max Flare, or the Fire-type max move, will cause Harsh Sunlight for 5 turns, whereas Max Mindstorm, or the Psychic type, will cause Psychic Terrain for 5 turns. Dynamax can only be used once per team every game, and if a Dynamax Pokemon is switched out, it will cancel the remaining turns of Dynamax and they will not be returned. So when you Dynamax, you have to make the best of it, because unlike Mega Evolution, Dynamax only lasts 3 turns and you only get to do it once. So you will not be able to Dynamax again if you lose it. So it's really important to make the best of Dynamax while you can. The main thing that makes Dynamax different than other game changes like Z moves and Mega Evolution is that it's a very situational effect. Dynamax can easily turn the tide of a battle, but since there are only 3 turns, it is important to use it to the best of your ability. However, while Dynamax has a lot of offensive power, a Dynamax Pokemon also has their health doubled, assuming they are maxed out Dynamax candies, which also makes Dynamax.
I thought it's a double.
Mm-hmm. If they're
Really? Okay.
if they're maxed out with Dynamax candies, yes. So that makes Dynamax a good defensive option too, which isn't super common, but it could happen. Stalling an opponent's Dynamax is also very important, because they will lose a lot of offensive and defensive power. So, for example, if you watch me play, when I'm playing, most of the time I actually avoid Dynamaxing turn 1. Because it's so situational. Like, you want to make sure you're using the most of it, and you want to use it when it's most convenient to you. And if the opponent Dynamaxes, like for example, when a player runs Gmax Lapras, I know that they will almost always be Dynamaxing first turn, which means I try and run defensive options to stall out their Dynamax, because once their 3 turns are over, that is a lot of offensive and defensive power that they lose that now is in my favor, because I still have my Dynamax intact, hopefully. But Dynamax is very offensive, but with the health double, it's also a defensive option, because you can ensure that some Pokemon can actually become pretty bulky when they're Dynamaxed because of the health double, which is really important to note as well. Go ahead.
Like you were saying, Gabe, with when you see Lapras, you know it's going to be Gmax. You play defensively, keep your Dynamax in the back, so when they run out, you have it. Recently, in actually the previous tournament we were just in, I went up against a Gmax Lapras, and of course he's gonna Dynamax first turn to get that, everything set up. I played hyper aggressive against it. I have a Gmax Charizard, and I have Solar Beam, a grass type, which Lapras is weak to, and so I Dynamax first turn as well, and you can set up, even you don't have to set up defensive in these points. You can use it for to take advantage of an aggressive first turn as well. So it's situational, and it also is based off your team. You can play defensively to keep your Dynamax in the back as, final turn, final area, just as a sort of an assurance of your ability to win, or you can get it a quick start off to where you are in a better position for the end game. It's situational, and sometimes it's just sort of a call that you have to make, but it's not always it's not like a first turn thing you have to use. So that's just something to keep in mind.
So yeah, exactly what he said. It's like Dynamax is really good. Like I actually like Dynamax a lot. There are a lot of people in the community who actually do not like Dynamax and actually prefer Mega Evolution. And while I agree somewhat, I actually personally think Dynamax is better. This isn't a rant. I'm not gonna go fully into this. But personally, I just say I like Dynamax a lot. I think it's really cool, a really good thing. So next on to Gigantamax. Gigantamax is very similar to Dynamax, but it's a different. It's special in where it changes the Pokemon's form as well as giving the traditional effects of Dynamax. So, for example, Gigantamax Charizard looks a lot different than regular Charizard. So it's just it changes their form as well as increasing their size and giving the regular health double and stat increases. Now the difference is only certain Pokemon can be Gigantamax, and this is important. This does not apply to an entire species like Mega Evolution does. So for example, Gmax Charizard, not every single Charizard can Gigantamax. Only certain ones can Gigantamax, and you can only find Gigantamax Pokemon in max raid dens. Yeah, and then Gigantamax will only stay with that Pokemon. You can't breed a Gigantamax Pokemon and get another Gigantamax Pokemon. Only the Pokemon you get that was Gmax can Gmax. You will never be able to change it to another one. And that's another thing.
Also...
Here, this is also important for when I was talking about bottle caps with IVs. Saving bottle caps for a Gmax Pokemon is really good because since you can't breed them for better IVs, it'll be really good to get their IVs up if they're not all the way up. Since you can't breed them, that's important to note as well. Is that what you're gonna say? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same.
Now, apart from the form change, the main difference, actually, really, besides the form change, the only actual in battle effect difference is that Gigantamax Pokemon gain access to a signature max move that only that species of Gigantamax can use. For example, Gigantamax Charizard will have all of its fire type moves, instead of turning into Max Flare, they will now change to Gmax Wildfire. Which, instead of causing harsh sunlight for 5 turns, it will apply a burning field that will do 1/8 of each of the opposing Pokemon's max HP for 5 turns. It's a stupidly broken Gmax move.
Really
good. And then
worth going after.
Yeah, it's actually really good. And then fun fact, Gmax Colossal's move, Gmax Vocalith, does the same thing. But instead it's a rock type.
Gmax
so knowing the difference between a Gmax Pokemon and a Dynamax Pokemon is really important for making a team. For example, some Pokemon are actually generally better Dynamaxed than Gigantamaxed. One good example is the Pokemon Duraludon. Duraludon's move, he gets a Dragon type. All of his Dragon type moves are switched to a special Gmax move that I cannot remember the name of. Generally, Max Drake or whatever it's called, Max Wormwind, which is the Dragon type max move. What that normally does is lowers the attack stat of both of the opposing Pokemon, which is really good. But Duraludon's Dragon type moves are changed to G-Max Depletion. That's what it's called, G-Max Depletion, which lowers the PP of the last move the targeted Pokemon used by 2, which is okay. But honestly, when you consider the attack drop you can have, it's not that good.
Defense drop.
No, the Dragon one's doing attack drop. Ghost type does a defense drop. So like lowering their PP is sometimes okay, but when you compare it to the attack drop, it's just not nearly as good. So actually running Dynamax Duraludon is actually better than Gigantamax Duraludon in almost every circumstance. So that's important to note as well. That's it, chat. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Does anyone have any last questions? We covered a lot. There's a lot to go through here. I did not mean to do that. Yep. Ask questions, chat. Question time. Stats, natures. Yep. All this moves, priority, abilities. IVs, EVs. If you guys wanted an EVs, IV and EV guide, and then any question about Dynamax. Now's the time, chat. Any final questions? Throw them at me.
I will say this, not all G-Max moves are offensive. Like we were talking about G-Max Charizard and G-Max Colossal, they do 1/8 of the total HP for 5 turns. Though that's obviously aggression. But Lapras, what is the move called for Lapras? And it's an ice.
You think I would know because they use it so often.
Yeah, the G-Max Lapras move, it changes. I'm almost sure an ice type move.
Yeah, it's an ice type move.
Lapras is dual type water ice. It turns it into a pseudo. There's a move called Aurora Veil, but it basically it protects against both special and physical.
Mm-hmm. It does the effects of light screen and reflect.
So it
G-Max Resonance
protects your G-Max Resonance. Okay.
Yep, I didn't look it up.
Yeah, it gives the Pokemon G-Max Resonance, which protects your side from physical and special moves for 5 turns again?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's counter, and you can set it up. That's why G-Max Lapras usually Dynamax first turn, because they want to get that support up so they're not taking as much damage for those 5 turns.
Oops. Anyway, so, whoops, that's not what I want to do. Does anyone have any final questions, chat? No? Everybody's good?
This stuff gets complicated really quickly, so.
And then, also, you know what I'm going to do right now, actually, while I'm thinking about it? I'm going to do this real fast. I'm going to make a new... Okay, I guess I can't do that. Alright. I made a new channel on my Discord chat called Pokemon Questions. I gotta go through my Discord and I gotta help Shy. Gotta go through and actually make my Discord. But for now, I just made a new channel called Pokemon Questions. If anyone has any Pokemon related questions, if they think of it I don't care if it's 10 years from now, ask it in that chat and then I will do my best to answer. I'll try and answer any questions you guys got. So everybody good? No final questions, chat? Well, Alright, I think we're good. Well, there you go, chat. That was my crash
If you
course
guys
in
got,
competitive
like-
Pokemon.
If you guys like understand most of that, totes to you because
I'll
this
say
stuff
props.
gets really, really complicated. Like you guys are really freaking smart because this stuff, both me and Gabe, like when he was researching stuff, he was talking about like some of the stuff that he didn't know. Same thing. Like we didn't know all of this, and we've been doing this for quite a while. So
Yeah.
if you guys got this, just props to you. That's
So I'm
really
just gonna like
impressive, this
hop
stuff.
in here real quick and just show you guys some stuff real quick. This website, first off, this website I'm on right here, Pokemon Showdown. Amazing website. I cannot
Godsend.
I cannot tell you in how many words how amazing this website is. So Pokemon Showdown is it's a battle simulator. So you know, I'd get on Showdown real quick. I'm just gonna we're gonna do a random battle.
Okay.
So this is a really, really, really good website for when you're just starting. If you wanted to play around, because this is completely free. And you can get on and you can battle online, or like me and I, you can battle friends. And like you can come here in the team builder, and you can make completely you can make a full Pokemon team. Hold on, let me full screen this.
I'm ready.
Hold on, I'm just showing them the team builder real fast. It's like it gives you all these Pokemon here. Here's all the Gmax. Like, let's see, you wanted a Gmax Charizard items. There's a whole list right here of like popular items, which like I cannot describe how amazing that is. So like, oh, you know what? Let's do Life Orb. Okay, here's all of the abilities Charizard can learn. Solar Power is better than Blaze. You can run Solar Power, and then it lists all the moves you can learn. And then on top of that, it goes. There's a category for regular moves, and then it takes out all the usually useless moves that you normally wouldn't use. Like all of these are moves that you would generally run. Like let's say what's good, probably Heat Wave, Air Slash. Let's say Ancient Power. You know what? Let's say instead of Life Orb, what if you want to run Assault Vest Charizard? So that way, instead of Protect, you can run Ancient Power and Solar Beam, wherever it's at. All right, and if you can't find it, you can do this. Solar Beam. There it is. And then this is the personal best part. The stats. This did Fox die? Oh yeah, she might have. This right here. This is his EVs. This will give you, this spread will like take your item, your ability, and your moves, and it'll give you a random, or not random. It'll pop up like an EV spread that would fit your Pokemon. So like right here. 252 special attack, right? 252 speed, and then 4 special defense. So it sees that I'm running all offensive moves, and then with Assault Vest, and it realizes that I want to run offensive. And then generally it'll just give full IVs, except right here it didn't give any attack for that foul play thing I was talking about. Super nice. Cannot describe how amazing Showdown is. This is so good for playing with teams. Like for example, here's my main team right here. My Incineroar, this is my special Dragapult, Toxtricity, Excadrill, Whimsicott, and Gyarados. Like, yeah, this website's great if you're starting out. And then like I was saying, we're gonna battle here. I'm gonna challenge you to generate random battle. And now a random battle just misses bubbles. I know. This just gives you a bunch of random Pokemon. Now, unfortunately, it's in singles,
Oh heck yeah!
which you almost never would use. But this gives. Oh, why this? But this one's kind of cool. This is kind of terrible. Actually, my team's kind of bad. Not gonna lie.
This is, I don't even know what to do right now.
So, I would recommend. I will say, if you're gonna be doing VGC, in games when you go to Team Builder and start a new team, you can select a format. I would recommend this one. If you're doing VGC, do VGC 2020. Just because that's like the common one. Oh, wait? What happened? Oh, by XL Lore. Ooh, Dragapult was not the Pokemon. Oh, never mind. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. So, okay. Interesting. Alright, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, here, also let me do this real quick so you guys can see better. Clang clang.
Yo, Kling Klang is actually pretty freaking fast. Alright.
Alright, never mind, that's not gonna work for some reason.
Okay.
Maybe just do this maybe? So I want to make sure you guys can see like that. Alright, you guys can pretty much see. But yeah, this website is so great. Can't even describe it. I don't know what to do here. Let's just do this. Why not? Now, for example, chat, that was that's spot. This is a status move, and you can see right here, it raised my special attack by 2 stages. So it's at +2, and I'm at ×2 right now. Both leftovers.
Yeah, let's go.
No. So Nasty Ball is pretty good.
Why does that have Cure Grind? Dude, let's go.
And again, chat, if anyone has any questions, post in Pokemon questions. I will do my best to answer anything. And also, if you guys, what? Are you kidding? Of course you lived that hill. Uh-oh.
1%.
You're killed by your recoil.
Yeah, I know. There wasn't much I could really do.
Yeah, because wild charge is wild charge.
Yeah.
Just...
It was either that or Gear Grind, which only has 50 base.
Aw, heck yeah, dude. I know, Shy. I'm bad. Rangaroo, no. God.
Ripperang. I really have to hope that the rest of his team isn't set up for a Trick Room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had Flapple, which is decently fast. I mean, Kyrie.
Because of why not?
Yeah, right.
Tomorrow. Leftovers Gastrodon. Let's go.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Oh, I just realized I made an oopsie, kind of.
That did a lot wrong.
I mean, it's Kyurem and I'm Dynamaxed.
I know, right?
Also, another thing I should mention, in singles, most of the time,
Ah, heck yeah.
legendaries and mythicals are not banned, but in VGC they are. Most of the time in VGC,
Let's get one time. Oh, crits.
did the crit matter? I don't know if it mattered.
It might have. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, Kyogre. Great. Because why not?
I don't know why. What is it running? Oh my god, of course. Why would you run?
There's no way it's, yeah.
Yeah,
You get me?
whatever the hell that
Are
item's
you,
called.
are you picking up what I'm putting down? No!
Ooh, ow. Ow.
Oof. Oh, Calm Mind. Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it's leftovers, because why wouldn't it be?
I know, it gives...
Do a
literally
series on explaining Pokemon? I mean, I'd do it. There isn't
Yeah,
really...
you would.
Of course it would.
Oh,
Because why wouldn't it?
let's go. Why did I press that? I'm not thinking. I'm so good at this game, trust me.
I mean, there's not really, of course... There's not actually really that much left to go over.
No, not really.
Really, EVs, IVs... God. No, I died. What was that roll? Oh, actually, never mind. It was about right.
Yeah, you kept lowering your special attack, and my special defense is up to 366. Let's go. Kyogre for the
I mean, like, individual Pokemon? Wait, what do you mean? Like, a series on explaining individual Pokemon one at a time?
Oh god, alright. Okay. Alright, let's go.
That would take forever, and I don't think I'm quite good
That
enough to,
would-
like, freeze me. Do it, you won't. Oh, you wuss.
Please. Oh, god.
Of course it wouldn't
Imagine
freeze
if
me,
it
because this
did.
game is dumb. I'm just gonna set up in front of you. Paralyze me. Paralyze me. Oh,
Paralyzed.
this game's such a wuss.
Yeah, just keep pressing.
Shadow Ball? Okay.
Wait. You're life force. You are life.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay. Ah. Let's go, Doug Tree, if you speak.
Okay.
That just killed. Alright, interesting.
Now the only
Literally all
problem...
you need, the only thing you need is a flying type, and I literally can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, oh man.
Hmm.
Actually, that's maybe not true.
Eating ice sounds like I'm breaking my teeth. I mean, yeah, about right. Alright, chat.
Because he's eating ice.
Oh, no.
You got this kid. It's a Darmanitan. You can't lose.
Yeah, I just got a tank and earthquake. It's easy. I did it!
He does!
No, Sash! No, of course it would be. Of course it'd be Sash.
So, and Kingler, let's go.
Alright,
God,
Kingler, I believe in you.
Kingler.
Yay! Wow, he took that really
yeah.
well, actually.
He took that really freaking well. How much health does he have?
230. Alright, let's do one more random.
I had Earthquake and Stonehenge.
10 out of 10.
And this is just so much fun because it's dumb.
Oh, I can't see Ndidi.
Okay.
Fun fact: Excelgor is actually like literally one of the fastest Pokemon of all time.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, and if I'm not, and he's max speed, so that's almost 300 freaking speed. Bug is always one of the weird ones. What the heck is Bug super effective against other than grass?
Of course, you would lower my special attack.
Well, yeah, of course.
Psychic.
It is. It is. That's what I thought.
And dark. It's super effective against psychic.
I knew that. And dark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Because yeah, Bug is like. It's. I don't know. It's pretty. It's not bad.
I'm gonna save that for later.
Okay, it's underused. He has Geomancy degree.
Yep. You called me. You called my bluff.
Yeah, actually.
Uh-oh.
What do I have? Oh, that's what I. So it really doesn't matter.
And also, chat, if anyone wants to fight on Showdown ever, just like test a team or something, let me know. I'd be happy to battle you guys. Just a warning, I don't go easy on anybody. Yeah, but no, like Showdown is just nice because it's free. You don't need a strong computer to run it. It'll run on pretty much anything, honestly. And it's like it makes team building like so nice. But what if it's a day that I'm just dead? So like every day. Yeah, no, it's super fun, and I'd be happy to battle you guys. And like, if you guys want any in Pokemon questions, you don't have to just ask questions about Pokemon. Like, if you want tips for team building, you have a potato, Eevee. That is heckin' pogs.
Let's.
Uh-oh. Oh yeah. You're still faster than me, and I was +1. Oh yeah, Lycanroc's fast.
Yeah.
Also, Lycanroc is not
Especially...
in Gen 8. Can I just say?
Yeah.
Feels bad. Feels bad when Scrafty one-shots a Dynamax Pokemon. Scrafty's omega strong, dude. It's actually not. That's why he didn't have very much usage. Of course.
Yeah, actually though.
Of course you would. How slow is Scrafty? Uh-oh. Hey, I woke up.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I didn't think I'd wake up.
And see, that guys, that is what can happen.
Yeah, that's why, like, sleep is unreliable. And now I'm pretty sure Scrafty just sleeps, because I'm +2 in attack and speed. Depends on what he has.
Nothing good.
If he has any fairy, I'm screwed. That's not fairy.
There's...
Oh my god, look at how much knockoff did. Uh-oh. Knockoff did so much, though.
So much. Isn't that ridiculous?
Chat, should I show him yet? Nah, not yet. I'll hold on to that one.
He's got something so flippin' ridiculous, and that's like one of like this is a lot of fun, but it also is like really dumb because it's completely random. So you can. Why do you have a?
Stop asking questions. Yeah, random battle is just pure RNG, of course.
Yeah, it's more for fun than anything else.
Yeah, which it is fun. Like, I definitely think this is a lot of fun. Kabalion, you suck.
Of course, it's the leftover.
Yeah, because everything in randoms is leftovers.
I know, right? Talk about
The crit actually didn't matter there. Delibird.
Yeah, let's go.
So, Chad, do you want to know something fun? And this is something you pay attention to in Pokemon battles. So I have terrain effects here. I have stealth rocks and spikes. Which hurt Pokemon when they switch in. And the fact that Delibird did not take damage from that means that it's most likely running heavy duty boots, which avoids taking damage from entry hazards. Also, the reason I didn't talk about entry hazards is because they are very, very rarely used in VGC. In singles, they're actually huge.
In singles, they're huge.
Yeah, they use them a lot in singles, but in doubles, you'll very rarely see those things. Entry hazards.
That's straight up 50.
Don't worry about it. We're gaming. I'm not gonna beam on him yet, chat.
I'm trying to salvage it losing.
Oh no, he spiked through me.
I lived. What the? All right.
Don't worry about it.
Let's go. I got this. Delibird got this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Sharna.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, now we let him see chat. This is when we do it. Right here. No! Moon blast. I got moon blasted from my troubles. Not
it was either gonna be
moon blast.
Kyogre. It was gonna either be Kyogre, Rayquaza, or Xerneas. It was gonna be those three. I would have bet money on either of those.
You tanked that? Oh my god.
And now Rayquaza's dead.
I don't think there's any way you can bring this back though. Like even without that. So this is Aegis Last chat. So actually I'll show you this real quick. That's why you don't flex. I mean, you're right. I got cocky. So if you see right there in the middle, it says ability stance change. So Aegis Last right now, if you can see him, he's on what's called
just show off King Shield.
Hold on. If you don't kill me, have you already clicked a move?
I've already clicked the move, but it will not kill you. I swear to God.
Okay.
Just show off King Shield.
Because I think I have to use use a move on you first and hope that you don't die. Oh yeah. Yeah, I used Aegis Slash was a placeholder name for one of the characters in my stories for a while. Nani? Let's hope this doesn't kill. So now look, now he's in blade form. Oh, great. So now he's in blade form, and now if I use this move called King Shield, he'll go back into shield form. I'll just show you guys real quick. Idaho?
Hey. What?
Are you by chance taking advantage of me showing chat something new?
No, not at all.
Ah. I tanked it anyway, screw you. And I get a special attack drop.
Which, yeah, that does a lot.
Nah, no it doesn't.
Doesn't do it.
Alright, so that's it, chat. This website's great, all in all.
It's fantastic.
So I'd like definitely recommend it, especially if you're thinking about getting into this. Even if you don't like, if you're not 100% sure, like if you're just thinking about it, this is super nice. Cause like here, like if I just jumped in, like, so let's make a new team, right? VGC 2020. Add Pokemon. Who do I want on this team? Let's see. How about G-Max Colossal? Right, let's say I wanted to run Weakness Policy G-Max Colossal. So
Hey, that's
Weakness
one
Policy is not in this list, but you can look it up. You run Steam Engine, and then you know what? Let's say I wanted to go YOLO and run Special Colossal. You would probably run something like Heat Wave, Ancient Power. I don't know. I'm just kind of Earth Power and Protect. We get a bulky Special Sweeper here. Okay, so like let's say I wanted that, but then let's say you know what? No, I don't want this. I don't want the HP. I'd rather have it in speed. Just boost my speed up. And then we come over here and we get Dragapult. With let's say we run Focus Sash Dragapult. If we run like I'll show you guys Wolfey's set. Where he runs Dragon Darts, Surf, and then he actually runs screens on his. So his Dragapult can actually set screens. I don't know what his spread is. So that way, yeah, it's like it's super easy, and then you can just take this into a battle. So it's a VGC 2020. You can take it into a battle and battle random person. I'm not actually gonna do it right now, but yeah. So super nice. I'm not because I'm tired and kind of to go to the bathroom. So super nice. Where can we find this story? You can't. It's invisible. Time to waste quarantine time. Alright, Ninetales and Eevee, you're gonna fight now. You guys have fun. Good luck. Yep, bedtime. I didn't expect to be up this late. So yeah. Again, if anyone has any questions, put them in Pokemon questions. Quotive, shy, no. Not that. Don't bring that back. Don't bring that back. I forgot that was a thing. I only have like one quotive. I only have actually like really like one story on there, and it's not even like a great one. It was very quickly written. Wasn't that good? The one she's talking about is not on quotive.
Yeah.
But yeah. So put your questions in Pokemon questions, and then yeah, if anyone wants to ever fight in Showdown, message me. I'd be happy to battle in Showdown. Yeah. Shy, no, don't do it. Don't do it to me. Yeah. Good night, chat. Thank y'all for watching. I wonder if I doubt it, but I'm gonna check it real quick. You know what? Sure. I know who we're gonna raid, chat. We're gonna raid an almighty cool guy. Alright. Good night, everybody. I'll talk to y'all later. Yep, raid time. Get your bastions ready, chat. Talk to y'all later, guys. Everybody have a good night. Bye-bye, gamers. We'll be hopefully back on tomorrow. Bye, guys. Let's go raid, man. No, Shy, don't. Raid. It's raid time. Get your bastards ready. Go raid him, chat. Bye, guys. Bye. Susie live.
I have no idea.
Intellect pot?
He's a pretty cool dude.
Mana pot?
He just recently joined in the Destiny community and he plays a lot of other games too.
Props to him.
But he's like a really cool dude.
Playing
Okay, I'm gonna focus boss because he's almost dead.
Destiny.
Nice. Execute on that guy. Sweet deal. Let's go.
It's close to being
Rise,
over,
or
though.
were you streaming, brother? How was the games, man? What were you playing? Thank you for sending your people over our way. If you guys are brand new, my name is Susie. I'm a full-time content creator here on Twitch, and I want to welcome you to the good old Strummage. Hope you're doing fantastic. Riser, what were you playing, man? Let me know, my dude. We are about to approach, in just a little bit here, the final boss of... Ooh, let's go. Of UBRS, man. Upper Black Rock Spire, man. Long time since I've done this, bro. Like literally over 10 years. Actually over 10 years. And so this isn't actually considered a raid, is it? Or is it just like a 10-person... Well, I guess you can't really have a 10-person dungeon. I guess it is kind of like a mini raid. Let's go, bro. Yo, Mercy is waifu too. Welcome, my friend. Good to have you in the chat.
Hey, guys.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, you caught me in a bad time. I'm just about to go to bed.
I really believe your life has purpose. I mean that.
Come in here
You
and hang
matter.
out. You got nobody else
It's
to
a
talk
pleasure to
to.
be popping in. It's sure for
Yeah.
you.
Well, you two have fun. I'm going to bed.
Come
Talk to
on,
y'all
man.
later.
Easy.
Goodbye, gamers.
Okay, so we're getting skull and then... Okay. That's just getting sheeped.